back again. Thanks for checking out the channel. My name is Josh, and we are we're actually reviewing Sandman. So what happened is I'm actually going to review Sandman episodes 7 and 8 together. Obviously, if you've clicked the thumbnail, you know that one. I've been doing them individually, but what happened was I ended up getting into doing a little remodeling in here and getting some different background stuff because I love toys. But I got a little behind on the filming, and I didn't want to stop my schedule of trying to get at least one episode watched a day. So I ended up watching 2 of them, which kind of worked out because honestly I got done with episode 7, and it was a good episode as well. Here's the problem. Everything is hard coming off of episode 6 because episode 6 was fantastic. And the more I've thought about it, the more that's just really become one of my favorite episodes, for sure in Sandman, but a lot of TV shows. It's definitely going up the list pretty quickly. So there was a challenge of coming after that, but this is definitely one where it is a lot of a mix of laying groundworks of getting to know a lot more characters about maybe what's getting ready to happen, and even how it ends. It ends more on a cliffhanger, which the show really, I don't think, has done a lot of. It leaves you on a cliffhanger in the sense that you want to know what happens next, but almost each episode feels like they were kind of completed, where there was a task that was a task that was completed. So if it was Dream getting back his tools, or whatever is happening, this was the first one, and actually both of them, that they didn't necessarily end that way. So it was kind of interesting. It made me want to binge them more and get done with it, but they're both still very strong episodes. So we're going to do real quick is just recap kind of what happened in them. There's a whole lot that happened and a whole lot that I didn't really know, especially again just watching episode 7. You get a little bit, you get a lot of groundwork for the new folks that are there, but you don't really know what's going on. Then episode 8 happens, and honestly you know a little bit more about what's going on, but you still don't really know what's going on. So episode 9 and 10 I think are going to be really important, but this one picks up where 6 left off, which was again, of course, the fabulous episode about death and then life. I think for a lot of the commenters helped me just kind of pick through some of the meanings for that episode. But you have that one, and then you come right back into where you have Desire and Despair, which again you get introduced into some of Dream's sisters, and apparently their plan is to change or capture or make Dream learn a lesson. I don't know exactly the backstory about why they want to do that, but hey, I'm here for it. So, and apparently they even kind of put a little thing in there that they were responsible for Nada. So basically I think they're definitely trying to either change their brother or cause his downfall. Kind of sounded like downfall, or maybe want to prove they're better than him. So we'll see what happens and who they're actually, what their scheme is. Again, in the back of my head I'm always sitting there thinking like, okay, well, is this Desire and Despair? I think I know maybe where they're playing into some of this, but at the same time, again, the show's really good at just completely going a different direction and surprising me no matter what. So we'll see if that goes. Anyway, episode 7, Desire and Despair. Basically, they're like, okay, it's time to go. We're going to do this again, but this time we have this thing called a dream vortex, which is going to be the undoing for Dream. Like, okay, well, what's a dream vortex? And slowly but surely, you start to learn over the expanse of the episodes. In case you haven't figured it out by now, I am going to talk about these episodes as if you have seen them. So if you haven't, please go watch that one, then come on back and check it out, and we'll figure out and discuss a little bit more. So, trying to figure out what a dream vortex is, the episode really starts with Dream actually reading a dream book, which are also cool things that I found out about in this one. Apparently every person has a dream journal, so to speak, or a dream book that tells about them and potentially their dreams, but maybe their lives. They didn't delve too much into it, but that's where like Lucienne comes in to play, as she is the librarian for the dream realm, dreamscape, I forget what they call it, the dream. So you had Dream actually reading a book by Rose Walker, who turns out to be the vortex. Lucien's doing a census on the dream world just to see who's still there. Runs into Cain from Cain and Abel, I believe, and Goldie, the little gargoyle, which makes up for Gregory, almost. Goes and talks to everybody. Apparently there's a buzz in the dreamscape about the vortex and things like that. So you go back to Dreams talking to Lucienne about that. There's the 3 that have escaped that just didn't come back, and one's the Corinthian, so Boyd Holbrook's character, which I think we had a feeling he wasn't just going to come back all peaceably. And he's a lot more prevalent in these 2 episodes, which is awesome because he's super creepy, and also, but he's charismatic. Like, you kind of want to root for him, but at the same time, you're like, you don't want to run into him at any point in any part of your life. You had him, you had Galt, I can't know if that's exactly how I said it, the shapeshifter, nightmare that also has escaped. And then there's Fiddler's Green, which they don't really say much about except that everybody's kind of surprised because apparently that was somebody that was pretty loyal. I don't even know what it is. Dream, nightmare. I don't know if they really go into it too much. Anyway, they talk about that one, and then Lucian brings up the Dream Vortex, and Dream definitely lets him know that he is well aware of her and plans on keeping an eye on her. A couple cool things kind of popped up from this. They talked a little bit about where theoretically, as of right now, they think these dream vortexes come from, and that Dream thinks they're completely and utterly random. They happen every couple thousand years. But Lucian is also kind of noting that, hey, this is very similar, and this is coming out due to, when you were captured and things like that, which come up a little bit in the story. But also they have the power to basically travel through people's dreams and create dream worlds, but also destroy dream worlds. So I'm not sure if it's like she has the capacity to destroy the dream realm, or both worlds, or what. But apparently it's pretty bad, and everybody's kind of nervous about it, except for Dream. He's just like, I'm going to check it out and keep an eye. I can't hurt some mortal that is no threat, even though there's potential for threat there. So we'll see how this goes. But it's very interesting, so they kind of start trying to figure out what's going on with her, and at the same time, he does realize that this is kind of the answer to his other problem, where a dream vortex attracts all of the dreams that are in, especially the waking realm. So Corinthian, Galt, however you want to say that, should be drawn to her, so if he keeps an eye on her, he can get them back. And it kind of goes that part of the story. Then the rest of it's really just getting to know Rose. You had a little bit of a kind of a really rough backstory where it's her and her mom and brother Jed that are trying to get away from their abusive father. I'm assuming. I think they did definitely say there's a lot of things wrong with them. Apparently that's not what ends up happening. The mother just takes Rose by herself because that's all they can actually do because of a custody thing, which I don't know how factual that is, but that's the way the story goes. And then it jumps like 7 years down the line. She's trying to get in touch with her brother because apparently both her parents are dead, the mom and the dad, and the brother went into foster care, but of course you can't give away, the foster facilities can't give away the location of people that go into foster care. So there's that whole story where you have her trying to figure out what's going on and get in touch with Jed, and then by proxy she does go and get contacted. Apparently there was some sort of a conference or something that her mother had signed up to go to and was really excited about, and she's taking her friend, I can't remember her friend's name, is it Lydia? Something like that. Super nice lady that lived in the same building that her and her mother, Rose and her mother did. Her and her husband helped take care of Rose, but then her husband also died. I think she said tragic car accident, but she's been seeing him in her dreams. Another whole story kind of going with that one. Anyway, they end up taking the plane over to good old London, and they run into none other than her great-grandmother, as it turns out. And this is where the story gets a little cool and twisty, because her great-grandmother was the one that was one of the people that got the sleepy sickness, or the sleepy, I don't even know what they called it, the sleepy sickness, where she went to sleep when Dream first got imprisoned. They even showed her. She was one of the folks that was asleep, and the dad tried to wake her up and couldn't wake her up. That was her, apparently, for a long time, and I'm not sure if something happened to where, whilst she was in dreaming or something under that, she didn't age as much, or if that's an appropriate age, because I think that was like, I guess she was only like 10, but that was like 80 more years, 90 more years, I think anyway, she's old, okay? And there's also some kind of weird stuff where, you realize that, okay, she's been in a sleep coma or whatever for 80 plus years, yet she had a kid. So we got some fucked up stuff going on there. But end all be all, she does now have her granddaughter, and they're talking, and they seem very excited and happy. And she's definitely got some funds. They own some sort of sugar company, so she's going to help her granddaughter locate the grandson through the means that she can, through financial things. Getting back to the actual brother, Jed, there's interjections and in the story, and episode 7 kind of ends with him are showing him his situation, and he was with some family friends of the father, and they're getting, it's kind of going to be bad when the foster agent, social worker lady was like, he went to a friend of the father's family, and they're taking care of him, and they're getting $800 a month, so they're probably doing okay. When they include the amount of money that the parents or foster folks are getting for taking care of the kid, it's probably not going to be a good thing. And that's exactly what this turns out to be. It turns out to be a very, very, very horribly abusive situation where they're definitely keeping Jed just for the money. The husband, he calls him uncle, are just horribly abusive person. The wife, and he calls aunt, is portrayed, she's a very scared lady that apparently it's a bad situation. There's nothing good that comes from it, and every time that he almost gets away, he got corralled back. But they're going on this journey, and at the end of episode 7, actually Dream is looking for Jed and realizes excuse me, he can't find him even in the dream world. And then it just happens that Rose walks in. She's not really supposed to be able to do that. Most people aren't into the throne room of the Dream King. So ends there, cliffhanger like I said, but then picks back up, and in the 8th episode it kind of just keeps on rolling from there. There were some other things, like you got introduced into this whole cast of characters at the Airbnb, which I don't know how people live at Airbnbs in Florida, where Rose is going to look for Jed, where they used to live. And that is a very eclectic cast. Like, I literally had no idea if she was dreaming through most of that, or if it was the desire and despair, like inserting people, or what was going on. They were just some crazy, kooky people that all kind of seemed to really want to help, and it was very interesting. You had Ken and Barbie. You had I don't remember the ladies that they had the veils over. I think one of them was Zelda, maybe, or Z. There's a bunch of different characters anyway, and they're kind of interesting. And you have the guy that owns the bed and breakfast, and they're all very helpful and want to help find Jed. So it's very interesting, but I still am unconvinced that there's not something going on there. Goes back to Rose meeting Dream, and in that scenario, he kind of just tells her exactly everything that's happening, like in what she is, and to a certain extent, and that he also will help find Jed, but that he can't find Jed currently. So there's something going on. He thinks it's Galt or Corinthian or somebody's there with them. So he says that to go back to the dreaming world, look for your brother. When you come, or go back to the waking world, come back to the dreaming world, and once you come back, we'll go find them together. And during that time, he was going to send Matthew, the Raven, to keep an eye on her in case she needs anything. And bingo bango, kind of goes back from there. So she's starting to believe and realize that this is true after she runs into Matthew a few times. All the while, her friend, I believe Lydia, is living like this dream life with her dead husband in like their dream world, and it's getting kind of odd to where he's trying to convince her to stay sleeping and they can just live out all their dreams of having this house that he built, and he's still working on bits and pieces, and then there's a baby room so that they can actually have a baby in their dreams. And this is where I definitely think that perhaps desire and despair, or doing something, I'm not sure if it's them or I don't know, or maybe it's the Fiddler's Green, because we don't have any idea what he actually can do. It was very similar to kind of what Galt was doing with Jed. So, let me jump back to that here in just a second. Either way, Lydia's situation is weird. Weird, okay? And we'll have to see what comes out with that one. I think she's definitely being utilized, or used. Yeah. Okay, so they go back, they're looking for Jed. They actually, Dream is helping Rose utilize her powers and her gifts to go through her friends' dreams that are there. If it's Ken and Barbie, or if it's actually Lydia with her husband, and there's just some situations that you're like, okay, these are what these people dream about. It's kind of funny, actually. But then he asked her, where's a safe place that your brother would dream about? And they go back to the house where they were raised in, and from that, it's where you find out that they've had little cuts in and out of Jed in dreams, intermingled with his horrible, horrible actual life. Intermingled with his dreams, where he's a superhero. He's the Sandman. He's got the costume, he's got the powers, and he's there to fight all these people that come up. And you have Galt, who's the shapeshifter, but shapeshifted to be his mother. So I mean, it's the most comforting thing I'm sure he can possibly imagine, and he's kind of protected, and he's a superhero there. So they're in there and they find him, but he definitely is not super aware. Like, he doesn't necessarily know what his sister even looks like. It's been 7 years, I believe, is what they said, and he's been told that the dream is the bad guy, and it kind of comes to a funny head pretty quickly where Dream is going to take care of it, but at the same time, Gwalt is there, and he just shows Gwalt for what he actually is, and then Jed realizes who Rose is, his sister, and it kind of comes to a pretty quick conclusion in that manner where Gwalt didn't put up a fight against Sandman or the Dream, because I don't think he really can, especially in most cases. I don't think many of the Dreams can when Dream's in full power, full force. But Rose is trying to figure out where Jed is, and she's asking questions, and she gets some bits and pieces about the names and then possibly the location. But it also does show that Dream, or Morpheus, is very not super interested in this part. As soon as he has Gwalt, it's time for Jed to wake up, and he's walking away and makes him wake up. So it gets enough information for Rose to start to Google some stuff and maybe figure out where Jed is, and finds out I think she does, so she's gonna go check that out. And then you go back to the dream world where Morpheus is dealing with Gwalt and talking about what happened, and it's very interesting. So how the show kind of ends is, it turns out that Gwalt was literally trying to, and this is where I could be wrong, so let me know in the comments, but it seemed like Gwalt was trying to protect Jed as much as he could in the dream world, but he couldn't really do anything in the living world, so he was still up for like the abuse and just whatever's happening in the real world. But whilst he was in the dream world, he was the super powered superhero that was maybe like his ideal situation with his mother and things like that. So he was maybe really happy in his dreams, but not in reality. But the problem, and Morpheus even told him, is that Gwalt is a nightmare. So his function is a nightmare. And we just came off of, again, episode 6, which had a lot to do with purpose and function. And that was something that Death and Dream talked about a lot, where ultimately, you can get lost doing your function, looking for purpose of something else, and it boiled back down to their function is their purpose, to serve humanity or to serve life, or death in the other case. But you had this nightmare that wanted to change, that had hope of changing away from its actual function, and it wanted to bring goodness to somebody or bring hope. And Morpheus didn't like that because of everything else that we just talked about, that he's just gone through. Your function is this, your function is not meant to change. So he sends him to, I don't know if it sends him into a nightmare to where it's like 1,000 years of maybe, it's just going to harden him up, I'm guessing. But does that, and Lucien's not super happy about it, and Dream can tell, and ask why. And she even says, like, she didn't start as where she is now. She started as something else and ended up being the librarian, to which Dream ultimately is just like, I understand what you're saying, but this is the way it's going to be for now. We'll see what happens. And actually thanks her as much as he can, but then does kind of excuse her to go back to her normal job of being the librarian, because she has, and there was some hinting of things going that maybe she actually runs the dream world with a cool pumpkin-headed character. He was awesome. And I think he probably knows some of that, but at the same time, he's just trying to bring order back. This is where the show's going to get interesting. Like, I don't know, is the turnaround going to be that, perhaps dreams and nightmares, maybe they can change what their function is, but that's also not the point of their being, so to speak. So there's an interesting dynamic here, an interesting conundrum and a question that's going to hopefully be answered. But end all be all, show ends on Boyd Holbrook, Corinthian, taking care of those horrible, horrible people that were taking care of Jed. So it was kind of a good thing, but then it was also kind of horrible because you realize who he is, and it was a little good. So, Corinthian got to eat the eyes of Uncle whatever his shit-faced name is. That was solid, but now they're going to meet, and this is all in the effort to, Corinthian has been in and out of the episodes trying to find Rose in order so he can have the dream vortex and utilize it, I'm sure, against the Sandman or Morpheus somehow. So that's going to be coming to an apex here pretty quickly, but I'm very interested to see what happens. Again, it's a very different tone than like episode 6, but that's what these have all been doing. They've been going all over the place, and these ones are, again, the more that are kind of joined. Like, they feel like a very sequenced story, whereas some of the other ones, it was bits and pieces, like self-contained. Like, I'm going to get this, I'm going to do this. Again, you have episode 6 where it's just a little bit more of exploration of life and death, and then you come into these where, again, they're very joined, so I kind of want to see what happens, but we've got, I believe, 9 and 10 left, and it looked like they did drop, and I was told in the comment section that there's an extra episode, which is maybe 2 different stories, or 2 hours, or something like that, so there's now 11 of them, so I'll get to that one too, but gotta finish this first story first. So let me know what you guys think. I definitely dug this one, these ones, and where the story's going, I'm very curious to see. But it'll be all, it's been a fantastic show so far. So let me know what you think. Peace out.